Hello, and you've tuned in for another Fear the Talking Heads episode. I am here with Wes from Scarefest TV. And for those of you who don't know, Wes is the reason that this channel exists in the first place. This was supposed to be his baby, and I was just going to collaborate with it, but then he kind of let me run with it. So publicly, thank you, Wes, for helping create this
I
cool
don't,
channel
I don't
now.
remember everything saying I was going to do this. I believe I was going to let you and other people do it, and then I would just take the credit for it.
Oh, is that what it was going to
Yeah,
be?
yeah. I think I was going to do a little editing, and then yeah, that
That's
was about
awesome.
it. No,
But thank you for inspiring this.
you've bloomed out quite nicely.
Thank
I
you.
told you early on I'm a good judge of talent, whether it's podcast or whatever. But I pick out what people, and you now here you are. You're doing this. When I met you, you were quiet. I brought out the flower that you are.
Aw, thank you, Wes. So, yeah, it originally started as the idea of trying to find underloved and underrated movies of horror. And it has kind of evolved into much more than that. I still do those episodes, a series of that. But now it's actually expanded out to focusing on who's coming to Scarefest celebrity-wise, and then picking movies that they've been in and talking about them on here. So now our featured celebrity guest that we are talking about today, we're doing a double feature on, is Felissa Rose, who everyone loves because she's so awesome. And Wes said one of the double feature movies has to be Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah,
He
I mean
said,
when you're
yeah.
literally famous for one movie, let's throw it into the mix.
And then the other idea was, of course, Victor Crowley, which I just recently watched the other night. And yeah, who's wild?
For the in case somebody was to happen to run across this that has not seen Sleepaway Camp, I just feel like you almost have to watch that as an homage to her.
Yeah.
First of all, my experience with Felissa is that she is she's one of my favorite actresses. I mean, that includes actors too, that I've met doing this. I would say that what makes her so special is every person that I see her talk to, and that's fans, showrunners like myself, she treats everybody like you're the person that she sat in eighth grade algebra with that she hasn't seen for 30 years every time she sees you. It's just amazing the connection she makes with people and her fans at her table. And that is a large key to her success at the con circuit. But I think, and this is kind of me just getting nerdy on you, I think that is also has made her a better actress.
Angela's this young girl that has gone through this tragedy. And so she's off to live with her Aunt Martha and her cousin Ricky. And I know that some people online, they talk crap about Aunt Martha, like, oh, God, that lady's so annoying. That character, I can't believe it's so over the top. I actually loved it because it was so over the top. And the first time that I watched it, I found myself actually out loud laughing at some of these parts because they probably weren't meant to be funny, but it just was.
I'm going to disagree with you only in that I think they were meant to be
Oh, it
funny.
was.
Okay, here. My theory on horror movies in particular, but actually movies in general, they're usually bad for one of two reasons. Okay? You meant for them to be, or it was accident.
Yeah.
Now, I think this was one of those movies. They knew it wasn't going to be Shakespeare. So I think they decided to take a lot of things about it over the top, including some of the characters. And she was one of the characters that really got caught in the chainsaw. Who knows? That might have been her audition tape. That may, they might have been, oh, they might have, oh, we were going to play this straight, but fuck, yeah, no, this is great. I have no idea, but my thing on it is I know that part was played over the top on purpose. But
Oh,
yeah,
it's very theatrical. Over
yeah.
like what you would see in a play, very theatrical. Well, that
Mm-hmm.
just won't do. Well,
We
now
wouldn't
will.
want them to leave without us, now would we? No? No, I'm afraid that wouldn't do. Come, children, let's be on our way.
And then I looked it up and I saw that she was actually a real estate agent and she was not a professional actress. This was just something that she and she just
There
played
you go.
into it. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, Angela grows up with this aunt, and after this tragic accident happens, it fast forwards about 8 years, and she's just getting ready to, send them off to summer camp, which, by the way, it's a real camp. I think in either New Jersey or New York. So they go off to this camp, and because she's quiet, these other kids, because kids are cruel and mean, they're just picking on her for the whole first week. Actually, beyond that, but the first week, it just kind of seemed like they were like, why are you so quiet? Why aren't you eating? And just being super mean girls. And the two that were kind of the ringleaders and everything were Judy, which is just a super brat. And she was over the top too, actually. I think more than their Aunt Martha. Just very, oh, you must be a carpenter's dream, and just really putting herself into it like a
Hmm.
theatrical role. And then you have Meg, who is the camp counselor for the girls, and she's basically pairing up with Judy to gang up on this poor Angela character. And so, yeah, you kind of get an idea like, oh, something bad's gonna happen.
The whole cliche of the camp owner that won't shut his camp down no matter the fuck what. I mean, after you got to haul off the third or fourth dead body, I think most people I know that have anything to do with a youth oriented activity would go, hey, maybe we should, take a break here. Maybe we should look at our procedures, something there. I guess you could say if you're putting people in a situation that is you're going to have to suspend belief to let them do it, why not just go over the top?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he was the consummate camp owner that would not shut down no matter what. Some of the other characters were perfectly straightly played. I would say that Catherine Cammy in the Meg role, to
Oh
me that was
yeah.
100% straight.
Yeah.
She played that like a teenage girl. She was a teenage girl, beautiful young lady. And so I can't really say, of course, once again, she was a trained actress. Frank Saladino, who played one of the camp counselors.
Yeah. He was cool.
Yeah, but he was at that point, he was a trained actor because I've talked to him. Now, it was kind of the end of his career. He didn't like the whole Hollywood scene, the whole acting scene after he
Yeah.
got into it. And so he jumped out. That role was played very, very by the book. I would say some of the other ones that you point out, Judy, the Karen Fields character, over the top, not
Yeah.
excessively, but nobody's that much of a whiny bitch. It
She
just doesn't
just,
happen.
my favorite part of the whole movie are the Ricky scenes. I watched this on YouTube instead of Tubi because I just didn't feel like dealing with the ads. I just didn't want to deal with it. And so on YouTube, they had it, but it was going to be bleeped out. So his whole expletive when he's yelling at the boys because they're throwing balloons at Angela.
Take it easy already.
It was fantastic. Or when they're playing baseball.
Eat shit and die, Ricky. Eat shit and live, Bill. Yeah, Bill, he's a little wet.
That's pretty accurate to the way I remember camp. I mean,
He was probably my favorite character. But I like that there's a little bit of a mystery to it. Most slashers are because you're wondering the whole time who is doing this. And it's going to be someone that you've seen on screen already.
oh yeah, you know it's somebody you've seen on screen, but you don't always know it's one of the core people that you're rooting for.
Right.
I mean, I watched one of the Friday the 13th movies. One of them pulled a damn ambulance driver out of nowhere. Who the fuck thought that?
Right, the fifth one. I don't.
Yeah.
I will still take that any day over Jason Takes Manhattan. I just have to say that.
It's been so long since I've seen that one. I don't even remember it.
See, it's not memorable for you. See there?
Well, no, few of them are. Okay, now to give a full disclaimer here, I usually watch horror movies because I'm having to interview. I have to know about it. I'm either interviewing someone in it or something like that. I very rarely seek out horror movies. Now, back when these came out, anywhere from the early to late 80s, honestly, at that age, even as old as I am, I wasn't really watching for the movies. That was something to do. We were
Okay.
going out, if I was either drunk with a bowl of popcorn or, humping on some chick's leg, so in other words, my first exposure to a lot of these didn't stick.
Okay.
And so I have to go back and kind of dissect them now as I watch them. So yeah, the Friday the 13th movies, I've seen all of them, but I couldn't tell you about more than one or two of them.
And this one, I mean, it gets a lot of praise at the cons. It's not like it's the best horror movie you've ever seen, but it has somewhat of a novelty to it.
I think Sleepaway Camp checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
And with no spoilers, the ending, it was so novel for its time that it really, I guess you could say, when you saw this movie back then, it stuck with you.
Right.
Now, and as full disclaimer, I don't think I even watched this movie until probably 10 years ago when I was going to be interviewing Felissa Rose and Jonathan Tiersten, incidentally.
I think because I only watched it a year ago for the first time, that social commentary for nowadays is just part of the conversation. Whereas
Yeah, it's just like,
it wasn't even a big deal.
Right.
It was more, I'm going to say this to you, someone who hasn't seen it's not going to know what I'm talking about, but that hiss, like at the end, that was what was disturbing to me rather than the other part that plays into it that everyone talks about. And then the credits roll and you're sitting there going, the hell was that?
See, now, okay, now this is a spoiler. The only part of the movie that made me go, what? The formulas for the movie is pretty standard. No, they get killed, nobody knows who does it. But when she kills, I just gave it away. But if you're going to spoil a 40-fucking-year-old movie, hey,
You're right.
The dog dies, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When she goes on the killing spree and kills all the young ones in the sleeping bags.
Oh, that was messed up.
I see that. To me, that's when I quit. Actually, that's for a moment there. I didn't care about the movie anymore after that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care about the character.
They didn't even
Up
have to
until
put
then-
that in there. It wasn't even a necessary part to put in the movie.
I don't think so. No.
No.
But up until that point, all the people that died, especially because you were already thinking,
Deserved it.
Yeah, deserved it. They were douchebags, whatever.
Yeah.
But when it was just, then it was just, all right, now you're just a serial killer.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah. I was thinking that
And so
last night when I rewatched it.
I kind of, that turned me off, and it's close enough to the end of the movie that even if I'd really liked the ending of it, I still don't know that it was stuck with me. But at the same time, looking back at it, I can say, cliche, tick every box, nostalgia, cliche, nostalgia. Still a worthwhile watching movie. You got to watch it so that you know what her pose is all about, because every photo she takes, she's doing this weird scream thing.
Yes.
So yeah,
it'll all make sense.
Yeah, it all makes sense after that. But going to her IMDb is quite the adventure. It's not hard to find a Felissa Rose movie.
Right.
Yeah, I pull up IMDb and it'll have watch options, and most of the time I've got the service. She's reached this level of horror. I don't know if this happens in other fandoms or not, but she is in horror fandom. She's reached that level where the independent films just want her name in the credits, and sometimes it's a 60-second part.
It happens.
But as long as she gets a check, I'm happy for her.
One thing I want to throw out there before we dive into Victor Crowley is she's going to be in the Slasher Nurse movie with Brian Bremer. Is it Bremer or Bremer? I always mess this up.
I usually say Bremer. He
Tomato?
doesn't correct me.
Okay.
He doesn't correct me, so don't worry about it.
So Beverly Randolph will also be in it with him. So it's Beverly Randolph, Brian Bremer, and Felissa Rose. So that one you said is going to be probably at Film Festival, right? At Scarefest. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, it was submitted and I watched it. And as far as what horror movie fans say they want, it checks all the boxes. It's that good. Once again, not Shakespeare.
It doesn't need to be. It's horror.
I don't want somebody showing up thinking, wow, I'm going to be seeing the next Terrifier movie, the next big thing. No, it's not that good, but it's good.
So Victor Crowley came out in 2017. So you're skipping now from the time that she played Angela in the 80s versus 2017, just 8 years ago. Now, Victor Crowley is the fourth movie in the franchise for the Hatchet series. Hatchet 1, 2, 3,
That's
and then there's
right.
Victor
I
Crowley.
quit counting.
But the first one that I watched, I guess I didn't realize just how gory it gets, but Adam Green is the director. He really likes practical effects.
Yeah, I would say that it's so gory that you look at it and you go, well, that was fake. Humans don't have that much blood in their finger, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I can see that. I think that the entire series, you won't hear me say this very often because you can't say it all very often. I think that series is highly underrated. If that had come out actually when Friday the 13th came out, if those movies had come out a decade earlier, we wouldn't be talking about Friday the 13th. We would have been talking about these movies. I think they're that good.
The story behind why it's called Hatchet is there's this disfigured kid that grows up into adulthood, and his dad is Kane Hodder, and he's taking care of him out in the woods. And one Halloween, these kids, again, another bullying story, these kids are bullying Victor Crowley, and they set the house on fire. Well, Kane Hodder, being his dad, he's trying to get him out of the house and chop down the door. Well, he doesn't realize that his son, Victor Crowley, is on the other side of the door, and he takes a hatchet, goes through the door right into his head. So now you've got the ghost of Victor Crowley that's haunting Honey Island Swamp out in
Right.
Louisiana. What I like about Adam Green is he throws people into the mix. Tony Todd,
Mhm.
you've got in this one, there's Taylor Maine, Tiffany Shepis, she's in it, and Dave Sheridan, of course. The person that makes it through 3 of the Victor Crowley massacres and is worthy of bringing up because he's in this one is Perry Shen, celebrity that was invited last year. I think it was either last year or the year before. I'm trying to remember now.
Last year, I believe.
Yes. And so he is, you have your final girls. Well, he is the final guy for 3 of the movies in this franchise. And so this particular movie is focusing on him because it's supposed to be a decade after the 3rd one. And he's going around with his publicist with this book that he's written. And he's talking about the accounts. He's, of course, embellishing what happened in the swamp, but he's been accused and exonerated of all these murders that everyone somehow thinks that a
Yeah, because
human person
There,
was able to
you can't
do.
you can't have a ghost killing people.
People still kind of look at him like, you're a killer that just got away with it. So he's going around, and Felissa's his publicist. I love her in this character so much because she does this exaggerated New York accent.
People are going to think whatever they want to think. As long as they buy your book, why do you care if they hate read it? It's an amazing book.
She's trying to push him to go to the swamp again. And she says, well, I talked to the people that want you to go, and I got him up to $1 million. And he wasn't going to do it until he heard $1 million. And then, of course, he's like, how can I turn that down?
Right.
So they go on this plane. Plane crashes in the swamp. I think an engine went out or something.
Hmm.
Worst place to be. You got your gators and everything else in there, all kinds of bugs. Victor Crowley.
But it was yeah, up until Victor Crowley, it was obviously survivable
Yeah.
up until that point.
I really liked that they brought some of the comedy back into it that was in the first one that kind of wasn't really there as much in the second and third one. So, what were your thoughts on it? You said you've seen it before. I only just
Yeah,
saw this one last night.
basically over the years I've well, actually, I guess it was when I wanted to make sure I had them all watched when I interviewed Adam Green. Now, over the years, I've watched them because when I interviewed Tiffany Shepis, that's actually
Right.
when I watched this one. I think it's a very underrated horror franchise with horror fans. I love the humor in it because I felt this was one, none of the humor was over the top. I felt that the movie, though, was very self-aware. And that's what I'm going to give Adam Green credit for. It's a horror movie that it's a cliche, and it checks those boxes without breaking that fourth wall, without going over the top.
And then when they're on the airplane, one of the parts that I liked, but it actually kind of went on a little too long, I thought. But whenever you've flown on a plane, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, some people don't like flying, so I had to ask.
Did not fly till later in life, but the story is I got booked at a convention in Texas. I had never been on a plane, and I wasn't afraid to fly, but I didn't like the idea of not having control of my situation. Was I nervous getting on the plane? Yes. They turned those engines on and I went to sleep. I am the most relaxed flyer in the world. That it just rocks me to sleep. Turbulence, it doesn't matter. It won't even wake me up.
You weren't like that guy on Twilight Zone, the movie, where he's panicking.
No,
There's a man on the wing.
One of my favorite mini stories about it. We were flying back from another convention in Texas, I believe it was. Me and Brandon Griffith, who owns the Scare Fest. Now he was a nervous flyer.
Okay.
He didn't like flying, but he at least was open about it. And he wanted me to go to Texas Frightmare and drive down with him one year. It didn't happen. It was windy, so the flight was not without turbulence, but we were above the bad weather, so it wasn't bad. But we had to land in the bad weather. And the pilot, God bless his heart, he did a great job, but somehow he managed to get it about 50 foot off the runway, and I swear he just hit the brakes and it went straight down, tail first. I mean, just level, not a nosedive, but I mean, it felt like that last 50 or 100 foot, we just dropped out of the sky like a bag of rocks. I thought poor Brandon, he's probably already updating his will
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Well, one of the things, and I know you've heard this on the plane, is when the pilot gets on and they do this is your
See, I'm
captain.
usually so far in the back. I get all I hear is,
Well, they did this in the movie.
Good afternoon. This is co-pilot Craig Borden. Flying time to Slidell today, a quick 35 minutes.
And it's funny, and then it just goes on a little too long, but I was just like, oh my gosh, that's Adam Green's obviously has flown plenty of times and he knows that this is kind of what they do.
Right.
And he included it into the movie. I just thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, this movie is pure carnage. It's going to be just like the other three that came before it. And the nice thing about it though is that it is part of a franchise, but if you want to just skip to it because of Felissa's in it and you want to see it for that reason.
oh yeah, they all stand alone.
But this one, they kind of explain in the beginning,
Yeah,
that he
they give
went
enough
through.
exposition that you could have hopped right in the middle of the franchise, gone right on with it, no problem.
Exactly. Adam Green wanted her to have the most talked about death in that particular installment. And I think he achieved that.
Yeah. Felissa still talks about it.
I
At
mean,
lunch, by the way. It wasn't that the kill shocked me, it's the method they chose to do it was imaginative.
yes. This particular franchise, if you like the Friday the 13th type of movies, someone's going through the woods and killing people, he's just going through the swamp and killing people. This is kind of that same alignment there.
He does a really good job of, I would say, stepping just past that line where your imagination is worse than what's on screen. Well, he takes it right up to that. Now, Terrifier, it just goes over the top. It's, you're seeing the blood, the guts, everything. It's
Well,
pretty out there.
And it's kind of mean, if that makes sense. Terrifier 2, the infamous like bedroom scene, it's just mean-spirited and I don't know. But whereas this somehow Adam Green turned it into like this fun franchise of people getting killed and you don't give a crap about them. They're just someone for the folly.
If you had the opportunity, I would watch them in order and a little bit of exposition because Perry Shin, he plays different characters over the course of the franchise, and that would actually help you make more sense to you.
Right. This was on Tubi, I think.
That's what I watched it on, yes.
Yeah. And while you're there, if you want to kind of dive into more Felissa Rose movies, feel free to do that so that you have something to talk to her about.
Type her name in. You can go all day. 162 previous with 38 upcoming.
If you don't know who she is, I suggest really trying to get to know her a little bit more through the movies and then go up and say hello in October.
I can tell everybody this goes back to where I started this conversation. If you want to meet someone, an actor or actress that you're just going to like because they're a good person, she drips of it. She's that good with the fans. She's that good with people in general. And she's always a lot of fun to see. I've been to cons with her and barely got to talk to her, but when she does, the last one I was at, she went out of her way to make sure we had dinner with her.
Maybe sometime soon you'll see her on Scarefest TV.
Or maybe an hour before this happened.
All right, take care. We will see you next time on Fear the Talking Heads.